Hey, what's up everyone, Bestinwest here, and today I'm going to be covering my Twilight Cup video for the Mirror Cup. Now, I initially wasn't sure if I was going to weight this cup, so that's why I don't have the face cam that I usually include in my videos, but I did get a lot of good footage and I wanted to share with you. The reason why I wasn't sure if I was going to weight it was because there is going to be a larger tournament down the line in Modesto. I wasn't super confident in my regionals. The tournament that's going to be in Modesto is going to be regional style, and this one that I did end up weighting was a Twilight Cup, and I did really well in Twilight Cup when it first came, and I think there were some changes, but I was able to adapt to them pretty well in my practice battles, so I figured might as well just weight it and see how it goes. So without further ado, let's get to the video, starting with my team composition. Alright, so as you can see, this is the team that I ran for my Twilight Cup. I have Umbreon with Snarl, Last Resort, and Foul Play, Skuntank with Poison Jab, Crunch, and Sludge Bomb, Golbat with Wing Attack, Poison Fang, and Shadow Ball, Dustox with Confusion, Sludge Bomb, and Silver Wind, Toxicroak with Counter, Mud Bomb, and Sludge Bomb, Azumarill with Bubble, Ice Beam, and Play Rough. Now, there is one Pokemon that I think is recommended to run a different moveset, and that is Skuntank. Skuntank, I think, is recommended to run Crunch and Flamethrower. Now, the reason why I chose to run Skuntank with Sludge Bomb instead is because of the Azumarill matchup. Azumarill being able to get a Sludge Bomb off on Azumarill will completely decimate it. It pretty much, if you can get a Sludge Bomb off on Azumarill, you will be able to beat it in an even shields matchup if they don't block it. So I think it's just a good option to have. Otherwise, Azumarill will be resisting all of Skuntank's charge moves. So by having that kind of threat against Azumarill makes your opponent really think about if they want to shield or not shield, what it could possibly be. So other than that, it's pretty standard movesets. Now let's get to the battles. Alright, so for this first round against Cartonia, he's actually a really good friend of mine. We actually grind community days together looking for PvP Pokemon. But Cartonia, let's take a look at his team. I see that he has a Tyranitar, so if you guys watched my other video about Tyranitar, I'm going to leave a link right up here. So pretty much T-Tar is going to be used either in a lead situation or after a Pokemon is going to have fainted. Otherwise, it's put in a very bad position. So with that being said, I see that he also has a lot of poison Pokemon, or Pokemon that will be weak to poison, as in Azumarill. So with that being said, I decide to lead with Toxicroak, and I also bring in my safe switch of Azumarill and bring in my Dustox to take care of his poison types in Golbat, Toxicroak, Tentacruel, and also Silver Wind from Dustox will deal a decent amount of damage to Tyranitar as well, and also Sludge Bomb will deal super effective damage to Azumarill. So it has a lot of good matchups against his team. So that's the team that I run with. Let's see how I do. Okay, getting into this first battle, I lead off with Toxicroak, he leads off with Tentacruel. This is a good matchup, mainly because I'm resisting those poison jabs, and if I can get this Mud Bomb off, it's going to deal super effective damage. I do get it off, and he decides to shield that. He's going to charge energy and switch. I go ahead and send in my Azumarill, which is my safe switch, and this is still a positive matchup for Azumarill because Ice Beam will be dealing super effective damage, and Azumarill is super tanky. So I get this Ice Beam off, see what he does. He goes ahead and blocks it. He's going to get another Poison Fang off, but I decided to shield it this time just because I need to match his shields to win this, I think. So he's going to get another charge move off. Again, I think it's a Poison Fang. And I'm okay with letting Azumarill pretty much go down to 0 health as long as I win this matchup, because I don't want Tentacruel charging energy off of my Azumarill. So he sends back Tentacruel. I'm gonna let Azumarill faint, and I believe I send out Dustox. And this is a positive matchup because it's resisting those poison moves. And right here, I think he uses Acid Spray, so I decide not to shield, and that's fine. I don't have any good moves against it. All of my charge moves are resisted by Tentacruel, so I get Silver Wind off, hope that I can get a boost, but no dice there. He gets another Acid Spray off. That's fine. We get a little bit of lag, but I knock out his Tentacruel. He has a Azumarill. I'm going to get the Sludge Bomb off. He has no more shields, so this is going to deal super effective damage. And also I have Toxicroak with some energy built up in the back right here. And so I'm going to get it off, and this should knock out his Azumarill. GG. For the second battle against Cartonio, I decided to just run with that same team. I felt pretty confident with my team composition, and again, if he leads off with T-Tar, I have a good answer to it, so let's just stick with it. Going into the second battle, I lead off with Toxicroak. He leads off with Skuntank. Again, another good lead for me. I am going to be dealing neutral damage, but counter does a lot of damage. Charge up some energy. He switches to Azumarill. I switch into my Azumarill in this mirror. So this is a decent matchup. He uses Ice Beam. I'm going to go ahead and use Play Rough. Now, I usually like to go ahead and let the first charge move go, because if he doesn't use Play Rough, that means that he might not have Play Rough. So in this case, he does have Play Rough and he gets it off. I'm going to go ahead and get another Play Rough off, and he's going to let this one go. Now I'm up 1 shield. We have about the same amount of HP, but he does have a slight energy advantage because he switched in before me. I'm going to shield this one. I'm going to get this next Play Rough off. You can kind of see me using a weird pattern to hit my bubbles, mainly because I don't want him to know what moves I'm using. So I was able to knock out his Azumarill with my bubble, and I almost have enough energy to get to my Ice Beam, and I do. So this is just bonus damage at this point. He's going to shield that. He's going to knock out my Azumarill. I am going to send Toxicroak back in, get this Mud Bomb off, and deal super effective damage. I'm going to counter him down, and he's going to send in Tentacruel. I have another Mud Bomb right here. This is going to deal super effective damage. He's also out of shields. I do have 1 shield, and I also have Dustox in the back. So this is a good situation for me. I'm going to go ahead and shield this up. He uses Acid Spray. I go ahead and get this Mud Bomb, and that will do it. GG. So for this second round, I got matched up against Tambio, and looking at his team, I see a Frostlass, a Alolan Muck, and a Venomoth. All of those are pretty good matchups for my Umbreon, so I decided to bring in Umbreon. Now, if he does decide to bring in Toxicroak, I do need a safe switch, and that safe switch is going to be my Azumarill. And for my last Pokemon, I still need a good counter for his Azumarill, so I decided to go ahead and bring in my Skuntank because it also has Crunch, which will deal super effective damage against Frostlass. It'll have a good matchup against Venomoth, I think, or a decent matchup against Venomoth, and can deal decent amount of damage to Venusaur as well, because it's going to be dealing neutral damage with those poison type moves. So let's see how I do. Getting right into these battles, I'm going to lead off with Umbreon. He leads off with Toxicroak. This is a terrible situation for me, but my contingency plan is to bring in a Azumarill. He goes ahead and gets some counters off on me, and I decide not to shield it, thinking it's a Mud Bomb. It's a Sludge Bomb. look at all that damage. I'm gonna get this Ice Beam off, and it's either gonna draw a shield or deal a lot of damage to his Toxicroak. He decides to shield it, gets a couple more counters off, and then switches to his Azumarill. My Azumarill is almost fainted, so I go ahead and use an Ice Beam. He goes ahead and eats that, and he's gonna bubble me down right here. I have a shield advantage, but he has a Pokemon advantage. So I'm going to go ahead and bring out Skuntank. So those poison jabs are going to be dealing super effective damage. I have the shield advantage, so I go ahead and take advantage of it right here, blocking that Ice Beam. He's pretty low on health at this point, so I have a charge move. I decide to go ahead and use Crunch right here, so I can get even more energy saved up. He gets that Ice Beam, and I let that go. Almost knock out his Azumarill with that Crunch, and I knock him out with my Poison Jabs. Sends out Frostlass, and I have a Crunch charged up at this point. He lets that go, super effective damage. I'm going to send out my Umbreon. It's dealing super effective damage, but he switches into his Toxicroak. Luckily, I have enough energy to get off this foul play. It drew his shield, luckily, so he's going to get a charge move off right here. I'm going to block it, because I don't want my Skuntank going up against his Toxicroak. At least Umbreon is tanky enough. He's going to get another Mud Bomb off. Luckily for me, Umbreon is just super tanky and can take those Mud Bombs. I'm going to get another Foul Play off. Not very effective damage, but Toxicroak is relatively squishy, and I'm able to at least simultaneous KO his Toxicroak. So send out Skuntank against his Frostlass. GG. Alright, so for this second battle against Tambio, I decided to switch up my team. Even though I won that last one, I know he's going to make some adjustments. So I lead off with Golbat instead. It has positive matchups against Venusaur. It can do decently well against Azumarill, and he also has Toxicroak. So Golbat will beat Toxicroak and Venomoth. Venomoth is kind of a very close matchup, so it's not really a hard counter, but it is a hard counter to Toxicroak. So that's why I bring in Golbat. I also bring in Azumarill as a safe switch, and also I bring in my Umbreon. So Umbreon's just tanky. Hopefully he can do some damage against both Frostlass and Venomoth if it comes down to it. So let's see how I do. Getting into this battle, I lead off with Golbat, leads off with Alolan Muck. So this is a bad matchup, I believe, just because he's got Acid Spray, Dark Pulse, both dealing damage or affecting me in a very negative way. So I go ahead and switch into Umbreon, and he switches into his Toxicroak. This is a bad matchup. I do get a Last Resort on him. He's going to get a charge move off on me right now, Mud Bomb. Not too much damage, but damage nonetheless. I get a Foul Play off. He decides not to shield this, almost knocks him out. He's gonna knock me out with a counter right there. So he has like 1 HP left, so whatever I send in, it's going to deal some damage. But he had a charge move charged up, and it's going to hit me. I'm not sure what it was, so I blocked it. Don't want to get hit by another Sludge Bomb. Unfortunately, it was a Mud Bomb, and I took it anyways. So now I am down a shield. He has a charge move right here. I think it's going to be Acid Spray. Well, he has Acid Spray and Dark Pulse, so either way I shouldn't block. Now I'm going to get an Ice Beam off right here. It's going to deal a good amount of damage. But I switch into my Golbat right here, expecting an Acid Spray, I believe. A Dark Pulse, I mean. So Dark Pulse, I blocked it. It was a good block. Now I charged up, tried to feint him down, but I didn't want him to get to another Acid Spray, so I go ahead and get this Poison Fang off, knock him out. He has an Azumarill in the back. I'm gonna get this this Poison Fang off, and he's gonna block it. So that's not a terrible block. He had 2 shields, so it made sense for him to block it. He's gonna get this Ice Beam off, knock out my Golbat, and now I have an Acid Spray Azumarill, and he has the shield advantage with more health than me anyway. So I get this Ice Beam off. he's gonna shield it. He had the shield, so might as well use it. He's gonna get a charge move off right here. Ice Beam, knock out my Azumarill. GG. For this last battle against Tambio, I decided to revert back to my original lineup of, I think it was Umbreon, Azumarill, and Dustox, because he didn't beat it. I won that battle pretty handily, so I don't know why I switched up my lineup. So I go back to it and see if he can beat it. I'm hoping that he can't. So let's see how I do. Getting right into the battle, I lead off with Umbreon. He leads off with Frostlass. This is a great matchup for me. I'm dealing super effective. He switches out. I'm going to go ahead and switch out into my own Azumarill. So mirror match. We all know how this plays out. He's going to go ahead and use a charge move. I let this one go. Play rough. I'm going to get my own play rough off right here. He decides to block that one. So I know I'm going to probably block this next one unless I think it's an Ice Beam. And I think it is. It's a play rough, so I take that in the face. I get one more play rough off right here before he knocks me out this next turn. Actually, I think I decide to shield this so I can get another charge move. Nope, I let this one go. Ice Beam knocks me out. I'm going to send in my Dustox because my Sludge Bomb will deal super effective damage. He switches out. He gets a charge move off. I shield it because I know Avalanche will deal tons of damage. But I switch into my my Umbreon, deal super effective damage. He's going to get a charge move off. I decide to let this one go. It's going to deal a good amount of damage, but I'm going to charge up some energy, get this foul play off. He decides to let that one go as well. I have some energy charged up, so no matter what he brings back out, I'm going to get a charge move off. Last Resort. Brings out a Alolan Muck. Last Resort. He lets that one go. Now I'm going to try to get to another one, but I don't get there. I decide to let this go. Acid Spray. Oh, awesome. I should be able to get this Last Resort. Yes. Perfect. This is just enough energy to do some more damage to him. I'm going to send in my Dustox and try to feint him down, but I couldn't quite. He's going to get Dark Pulse off of me. I decide to eat it. Just eat it. He sends out a Azumarill. I get a Silver Wind off because I know he has a shield. He goes ahead and shields that. I have a shield because I ate that Dark Pulse and gets an Ice Beam off. I block that. I have a Sludge Bomb and knock out his Azumarill, and he has a Muck. Confusion. GG. So I wanted to highlight this location right here where I try to feint him down, but he gets a charge move off and he uses Dark Pulse. I thought it was going to be Acid Spray, so I saved my shield. But do you think if he used Acid Spray instead, it would have been better for his Azumarill, or do you think the result would have been the same? Let me know in the comment section below, because we kind of talked about it afterward to see like if it would have made a difference. But in my personal opinion, I don't think it would have made a difference because Dustox is pretty tanky, and if without that damage of Dark Pulse, I wouldn't have been low on health. So GG's Tambio. On to the next round. Alright, so for this next round, I am facing I Hate My Life 89. And interesting story, I went to his community and I won their tournament, and I invited them to come to El Cerrito and compete in our tournament. So he and his brother came over and competed in our tournament, and it's so awesome when that happens, is when you go to other communities and you invite them to your own and you get to meet more people and grow the PvP community. But anyways, looking at his team, you see that he has a Gardevoir, and a Weezing. Those are two off-meta Pokemon, two Pokemon that you usually don't see in most lineups or most team compositions. Now, the thing with Gardevoir is that you don't know if it is Charm or Confusion, and depending on which one it is it can completely change the type of Pokemon that you would plan on bringing in, because Charm will beat the dark types, but a Confusion will beat the poison types, and both of those are strong against Gardevoir. So it's just kind of an interesting situation. So looking at that, I decide to bring in Toxicroak because he has a Tyranitar. If he's going to play Tyranitar, it's going to be in the lead most of the time. And he also has a Weezing and a Skuntank, which are both solid matchups for a Toxicroak. And he also has a Toxicroak for the mirror match. The only Pokemon that he will lose against is if that Gardevoir is a Confusion user, and if I face off against the Ivysaur. Even then, I think it's a okay matchup because it's going to be doing not very effective damage with grass types. Anyways, I also bring in my Umbreon in case it is a Confusion user, and I also bring in my Dustox. So let's see how I do. Getting right into the battle, I'm going to lead off with Toxicroak. He leads off with T-Tar. Perfect situation. So I'm expecting him to switch out, but he decides to stay in, and I just farm that T-Tar, and he brings in Gardevoir. I'm going to go ahead and get off this Mud Bomb. I'm hoping that he's thinking I'm using a Sludge Bomb, and he's going to shield. We get a little bit of lag, but I do get the Mud Bomb off, and I just decide to stick in and try to get the Sludge Bomb, but it wasn't enough. He knocked me out before I could even get a second Mud Bomb off. But I send in Umbreon, and Umbreon I can tell it's using Confusion, so I send in Umbreon. This is a good matchup. He sends in Toxicroak. I go ahead and get this Foul Play off, and he's gonna let this go. I'm gonna charge some energy and send in my Dustox, and so Dustox is just gonna own Toxicroak. Pretty much walls Toxicroak. Mud Bomb is going to do some damage, but my Confusion is going to be dealing way more damage than that. So he sends out his Gardevoir, dealing super effective damage to my Dustox, but I'm going to get this Sludge Bomb off. He's either going to knock him out or he's going to block, which he blocks. But I have two shields. I go ahead and use one of them right here. I don't really know why, because he's doing super effective damage to me, but I have my Umbreon still, which can tank pretty much everything he has, but I do have a shield left, so I go ahead and block that Shadow Ball. And I'm going to get this Foul Play off, and that's going to be GG. So I wanted to take another look at this battle because this battle was set in stone once I got the lead with Toxicroak against T-Tar. He can't switch out to Gardevoir because he knows I have a counter to Gardevoir in Umbreon. So if he had switched right there into Gardevoir, he would have been switch locked. His Gardevoir would have been dead in the water, has nothing that will deal super effective damage to my Umbreon. So he let his T-Tar faint so that he can switch if need be. So right here, I let my Toxicroak faint so that once he decides to switch out of Gardevoir, I can switch into my Dustox. So I think once I got that lead, it was pretty much set in stone that I was going to get the match because I have a balanced lineup and he has a relatively balanced lineup as well. So in that case, in two balanced lineups with hard counters to each other, whoever wins the lead will most likely win the battle. Getting into the second battle, I decided to go with the same lineup just because I want to see how he makes his adjustments. I don't know, I need to make him make the adjustments rather than me make the adjustments because my initial read was correct. And again, Toxicroak will have positive matchups against 3 of his 6 Pokemon, so half his team, and it'll go neutral against Toxicroak. And I think this battle, I have Charge Move priority, so if I go up against his Toxicroak, I have that Charge Move priority. So yeah, let's see how I do. Alright, so as I mentioned, I lead off with Toxicroak. He leads off with Gardevoir. A terrible matchup. I need to get out of there as soon as I can. I switch into Umbreon. He switches into Toxicroak, a hard counter for my Umbreon. I'm going to go ahead and get this last resort. Try to do as much damage as I can. and he decides to let that go. His Toxicroak is going to get a charge move off. Mud Bomb does a decent amount of damage. I'm going to try to get this foul play off, and I do. And I almost knock him out. Almost, but he knocks me out with one counter. And at this point, I kind of know that it's over because he has Gardevoir, and Gardevoir is just going to own both Dustox and Toxicroak. Yeah, once he got rid of my Gardevoir counter, it was GG. So he sends out Gardevoir, and I get this Silver Wind off, but it's not enough. But he's probably going to block it anyways because, yeah, Gardevoir just owns Toxicroak right here. GG. So I want to take a look at this matchup again, this battle again, because the key to this is that he got the lead. And I switched out into my hard Gardevoir counter, and he gets rid of my hard Gardevoir counter. Now I have two Pokemon that are weak to Gardevoir, and that's just bad news, right? I have nothing to counter his Gardevoir. His Toxicroak's main purpose is to just take out my Gardevoir counter, and that's exactly what it does. That's why he's okay just trading a Pokemon for Pokemon, as Toxicroak is just going to check Umbreon with no shields. Crazy. Gardevoir just sweeps the rest of my team. GG. So going into this last battle against I Hate My Life 89, I know that I have to have two counters to Gardevoir. A Bounds lineup is too risky, so what I decide to do is bring two counters to Gardevoir in my Umbreon and my Skuntank. My Skuntank is going to be dealing super effective damage with Poison Jab, taking not very effective damage due to my immunity to Psychic types with the Dark, but I am 1x weak because I'm poison, so it's 1x not very effective damage from Psychic. So it's a good matchup with Skuntank against Gardevoir, right? So that's, and then I also bring in a Toxicroak counter with Golbat. So I'm running Umbreon, Golbat, and Skuntank. And I'm leading off with Umbreon in case he leads off with Gardevoir. So hopefully this works similar to how the double dark technique worked in Nightmare. I'm kind of using the similar strategy in an unbalanced lineup in this battle. Okay, getting into the battle. I lead off with Umbreon, he leads off with Skuntank. I know this is a good matchup for me, I think. I'm dealing not very effective damage to him with my Snarls, but I can get the last resort. Just because Umbreon's so tanky, it'll be okay. I'm going to get this foul play off, and I'm hoping he's going to shield it, which he does, luckily. I'm going to get this last resort off, and he'll either burn 2 shields or he's going to let that go, and he lets that go. He's going to get a charge move off. I'm going to let this go because if it's Flamethrower, Umbreon is tanky enough to be able to deal with it. I'm going to try to get this foul play off, which it gets off, and this will be close to knocking out his Skuntank, if not knocking it out. So it did knock it out. He brings in Toxicroak. I'm going to bring in my Toxicroak counter in Golbat, and he's going to switch into his Gardevoir, and I have Skuntank in the back, and this is a good matchup. This is exactly how I had planned to use it. I'm going to get this Crunch off. I was dealing super effective damage with Poison Jab already, so yeah, knock that out. He brings in Toxicroak. Toxicroak is going to get a Mud Bomb off, but again, I have that Golbat in the back ready for Toxicroak. Golbat being a hard counter, being able to absorb anything that Toxicroak has to offer. In charge moves, fast moves, it's a hard counter to Toxicroak. So I'm going to get this Poison Fang off. And he has no more shields, so this is going to be, he's going to block it, but I have another Poison Fang, and this will be enough to knock him out. GG. I kind of wanted to look at this battle again and kind of talk about the strategy behind my team. Now, if you remember Nightmare, running an unbalanced lineup allows you to win a situation where you have an unfavorable lead. So in this case, I don't have an unfavorable lead, but once he gets rid of my Umbreon, if it was the only counter to Gardevoir, then his Gardevoir kind of has free reign against the rest of my team, right? So the thought process is you bring a second one in. So whatever this lead is, if it's a good lead, then you won that lead, and then you're hoping that his next two Pokemon you can deal with the rest of the first Pokemon and your other two Pokemon. If it's a bad lead, then you're hoping that your other two Pokemon can deal with the rest of their first Pokemon and their other two Pokemon. Does that make sense? So by running Double Dark, I kind of safety proofed myself from running into a Gardevoir with no counter to it, and that's exactly what happened. Once I won that lead, he switched into a counter to my Umbreon, knocked it out. I bring in a counter to his Toxicroak, and then he switches out, and I had another counter to his Gardevoir, which is probably like the only way that I thought of to beat it. And it was safe to bring Skuntank because if it was Ivysaur, I was still dealing neutral damage to it, and it was still a good situation. Even against Weezing, dark type moves are neutral to it, so GG. Getting into this fourth round, I am battling Romel J. Castro, and Romel has won the past 2 tournaments at El Cerrito. So he's been kind of beasting it lately in the El Cerrito tournaments. So I'm a little, I'm a little shook, but I tried to calm myself and look at his team and try to figure out what Pokemon I'm going to be running. I decide to lead off with Skuntank and bring in my Umbreon and Azumarill. Now, the reason why I do that is because Skuntank will have a okay matchup against Azumarill as long as I can get that, because Poison Jab is going to be dealing super effective damage to it, and as long as I block, it'll almost be a neutral matchup. It'll have a good matchup against Venomoth. It'll have an okay matchup against Golbat. It's in the mirror. It'll be neutral. Against Drapion, I'll probably lose that one. I think Skuntank loses against Drapion in a mirror, in a head-to-head matchup, and I'll lose to Toxicroak. So Skuntank, I bring in Azumarill as my safe switch, and I wanted a very tanky Pokemon that can either have a positive matchup or almost neutral matchup against everything else. So that's the team I chose. Let's see how I do. Getting right into the battle, I am going to be leading with Skuntank. He leads off with Azumarill. This is a good situation because I'm dealing super effective damage with Poison Jab, and if I can get a Sludge Bomb off, it's going to deal a lot of damage. So he's going to get an Ice Beam off right here. I'm going to go ahead and block this. And he might be thinking I have Flamethrower Crunch, but I have Sludge Bomb, and this is going to deal a lot of damage. Almost knocks him out. I knock out his Azumarill, and he sends out Toxicroak. Now this is a negative matchup for me. I'm going to get a Crunch off, and he's going to block it. Now I'm going to switch into my Umbreon. What am I thinking? Oh, that was a terrible switch. That was a mistake. I was supposed to switch into Azumarill, but unfortunately I switched into a negative matchup. He's gonna take this matchup easily. I'm gonna get this last resort, this foul play off. He's gonna block it. So we're both down shields now. I'm gonna get another foul play off, but man, that was a terrible, terrible switch. Toxicroak is near dead, but we're both out of shields. My Skuntank's almost dead. My Azumarill is not in a good situation. He's gonna switch his skunk tank into my skunk tank. He's gonna knock my skunk tank out because this crunch is gonna deal not very effective damage. He's gonna just poison jab my skunk tank down. I have a Azumarill. Although this crunch is going to be dealing not very effective damage, my bubbles barely do any damage as well, and he's going to get another charge move off. And his poison jabs are dealing a good amount of damage to me as well. So I'm trying to get to this Ice Beam. I need to charge up some energy, but he gets another charge move off right here, and that's pretty much game. My only hope was to get enough energy to get another Ice Beam off after this onto his next Pokemon, which is Toxicroak, but he had a charge move loaded anyways, and that's GG. Alright, I don't think I need to say too much because it's pretty obvious what I did wrong. I had the right lead, I had the right Pokemon, I just messed up the switch. It was a huge mess up too. It was a game defining mess up because I got the Sludge Bomb off. I had a perfect situation and I screwed it up with a bad switch. That goes to show you really need to pay attention to what you're doing at all times, even in a positive situation. I was so far ahead, but at the same time, one bad switch, one really bad mistake cost me that battle. Otherwise, I would have had it hands down. Just hands down, I would have had it. Oh well. Have to play better in the future. On to the next battle. So for the second battle against Ramel, I decided to switch some things up. I decided to switch out my Golbat for my Skunk Tank. That's because I kind of was expecting him to lead off with Toxicroak, because he saw how Skunk Tank does against an Azumarill lead, and Skunk Tank is a good lead against his team. So the one Pokemon that I will have a very bad matchup against is a Toxicroak, and Toxicroak does really well in the lead as well, because if Toxicroak is in a bad situation as a lead, you can always switch out of it. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Alright, getting into battle. I'm hoping he leads with Toxicroak. Oh man, Azumarill, this is a bad lead matchup for me. What I'm going to do is try to get a Poison Fang off, and I'm going to try to switch out before he can get an Ice Beam, but I think he gets an Ice Beam off. Nope, I switch into my Azumarill first, and he has Skunk Tank, so this is a negative matchup for me because Poison Jab is doing a lot of damage. But I get my first Ice Beam off. He's going to get a charge move off right here, and I decided to block it because I don't know what he has. If it's a Sludge Bomb, then that pretty much would have knocked out my Azumarill. He blocks my second Ice Beam, and he gets another charge move off right here, and I decide to let this go. Not very effective damage. I try to feint him down, or I tried to get my Ice Beam off. I didn't get it off. Pretty much I was trying to farm him down, but I didn't get it off. I send my Golbat back out, but he's just going to send Azumarill back out, and it's just a bad situation at this point because he's going to get an Ice Beam off right here. I'm going to block it. I'm going to get a Poison Fang off. No, I don't. He gets another Ice Beam before I get the Poison Fang off, and I get this Poison Fang off, but man, it's just a bad situation. He knocks out my Golbat, and right now it's Umbreon versus Toxicroak, and yeah, this is a bad situation as well. Yeah, pretty much if I had stuck with my previous lineup, I think I could have had it, because Skunk Tank versus Umbreon would have been a much better situation than a Golbat versus a Azumarill. So it is what it is. GG's. Oh man, that last battle was kind of rough. That last round was kind of rough. I made one very bad mistake, and that could have cost me, it could have cost me the whole tournament. But at the same time, With Pokemon Go PvP, you kind of have a short-term memory. Forget about it, like learn from it, and then move on. Learn from it, forget that you lost, and move on. So this last round, I'm going up against Enlightening, and he has a very interesting team. He has a Sneasel, a Gardevoir, and a Victory Bell. Now, those three Pokemon are kind of fringe meta. Sneasel is definitely off meta. Gardevoir, we saw it before, it could be running Charm or Confusion. I'm not sure what it's running, so I have to be wary. So what do I do? So I know that Sneasel is Dark and Ice, so what would be good against Sneasel is a Toxicroak. So I go ahead and lead Toxicroak because Toxicroak, I don't want to bring Toxicroak into a bad matchup. So what I do is Sneasel, I know Sneasel is super squishy, so Sneasel usually needs shields. So I go ahead and lead Toxicroak expecting a Sneasel lead, and then I bring in Golbat for his Toxicroak. And also it'll do good damage against Victory Bell. It'll do okay in the mirror, and also do okay against Azumarill with the Poison Fang. As long as I have shields, I can block that Ice Beam. And against a Charm Gardevoir, it'll do okay. And then I bring in Dustox because he has Toxicroak, Victory Bell, and Golbat, and also that Sludge Bomb will do a good amount of damage against Azumarill. And if that Gardevoir is a Charm Gardevoir, then I can deal super effective damage to it with my Sludge Bomb as well, and not take super effective damage from Gardevoir, take not very effective damage from Gardevoir. And also with Silverwind, I can deal super effective damage to any dark types that he has, which is Sneasel. So that's like a secondary counter to Sneasel, even though it's going to be resisting Confusion pretty hard. But Sneasel is very squishy, so Confusion will still deal good damage to it. Alright, let's see how I do. Getting right into the battle, I lead off with Toxicroak, he leads off with Victory Bell. So I just decided to play this out and not block anything. I know Victory Bell is going to take a long time to get to his charge moves, and I'm resisting his charge moves as a poison type. So this is okay, I think. And so I'm going to get these two Mud Bombs off and try to burn shields or deal a lot of damage. So what he decides to do is burn both shields and knock out my Toxicroak. Now I have two good counters to Victory Bell, and what I decide to do is bring in my Golbat. And now if it's Acid Spray, I don't want to shield it. If it's Leaf Blade, I don't want to shield it. It's a Leaf Blade, I don't shield it. He switches out to Sneasel, I go ahead and switch into my Dustox. So he has no more shields, so that's the key, right? He has no more shields. I have two shields. He gets an Avalanche off, I block that, and then I get the Silver Wind off. It's gonna deal super effective damage because of Sneasel's dark typing. So almost knocks him out. I get one more Confusion and knock out his Sneasel. So that was a good situation. Luckily, Bug does super effective damage to dark types. He sends in Golbat, and I think he's gonna knock me out right here. Nope, I decide to let it go, and I'm gonna get a Silver Wind off. In hindsight, I should have used a Sludge Bomb. Would have been one times neutral, one times not very effective rather than two times. But I go ahead and switch in my Golbat so he doesn't keep on charging energy. I decided not to block that because it was really fast. He didn't have enough energy to charge up to a Shadow Ball. So he gets a Leaf Blade off on my Golbat, but I wanted to save my Golbat for the mirror because Golbat will be dealing super effective damage to my Dustox. I didn't want to risk it. So get the Shadow Ball off, GG. Okay, getting into the second battle against Enlightening. That last round was actually really lucky. I ran 3 poison types, so hypothetically, if his Gardevoir was running Confusion, it would have wiped my team. Like, I had no answer to a Confusion Gardevoir, but luckily he didn't bring it, so I don't really know what moveset he's running right now. So I'm going to hope that, you know, like I have to assume that it's that's the thing with Gardevoir, right? Like you can't assume anything because it counters two different things in Twilight, and that makes people think a lot. Like it definitely made me think a lot. So this time I'm just going to assume that it's a confusion user, and that, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Skuntank, Umbreon, and Azumarill, because I learned my lesson from I Hate My Life 89 that if it is a confusion Gardevoir, I need two counters to confusion Gardevoir. So let's see how we do. Getting right into the battle. I'm going to lead off with Skuntank. He leads off with the Azumarill. This is a good matchup for me. So Poison Jab is going to be dealing super effective damage, and that's exactly what I want. I'm just going to charge up some extra energy, block this Ice Beam. So now I have two charge moves that I can choose from. I'm going to try to bait this shield because he probably knows that if I have Sludge Bomb, it's going to deal a lot of damage. So he decides to block that. Good. Now I'm going to get this Sludge Bomb off. I may have over-tapped there, and that would have been disastrous, but he decides to block again. He has no more shields. So I'm going to decide to block this one too, because at this point I'm going to win this this mirror match. I'm going to get this crunch off just so that I have switch advantage. I don't want to give up switch advantage, especially with the shields down. So he sends out Golbat. Now whatever damage I do right now is going to be bonus damage. So instead he decides to waste his shield, so that's fine. I'm going to bring in my Umbreon, I believe. No, I bring in my Azumarill. So Azumarill has one-shot KO potential with Ice Beam against Golbat, so that makes sense as well. Almost one-shots him. He gets a charge move off. I think it's going to be Poison Fang. It makes sense if it's... No, he decides to use Shadow Ball. So I'm going to get one more bubble and knock him out. He sends out Gardevoir. So I'm going to just go ahead and use Ice Beam. Ice Beam is neutral damage against Gardevoir. This is not a terrible matchup for Azumarill, but he does have the HP advantage. So he's going to just confusion me down. But I have Umbreon in the back, and pretty much Shadow Ball, Synchronoise is not going to do much damage. And I found out that he was using Confusion, and yeah, GG. Alright, so that was my Twilight Cup tournament. I hope you guys enjoyed it, learned something from it. I'm actually pretty happy that I weighted this tournament. I did pretty well. I came tied for first place with 4 other people, and I actually fought 3 of those 4 other people that tied for first place. So that means I fought like the best of the best at this tournament. So I'm glad that one mistake against Romel did not cost me a gold badge, a gold mirror badge. So it may have cost me a perfect sweep, but at the same time, you gotta take it, learn from it, and then forget it, because there's always the next tournament. Speaking of the next tournament, I did participate in 2 more tournaments this past weekend, a Regionals Cup and a Boulder Cup at the San Jose Mirror Marathon. They actually held 4 tournaments, and I participated in 2 because after 2, my head, I was just brain dead at that point. I'm going to try to get those videos out before this weekend so that you guys can watch it and learn from it if you have tournaments still to come. But that's pretty much it. I like to give a huge shout out to all my patrons. I have 4 patrons. I'm going to leave a link in the description down below, but pretty much it's patreon.com/Bestinwest. All that money is going to go into making these videos better. I have a pretty crappy mic right here that I found at a garage sale. And I'm hoping to upgrade that because there's still some popping noises every so often. And your support would really help me get a new mic and new equipment to make these videos better. Everything I get is going back into these videos. But my patrons keep me motivated to make these videos, so thank you so much. That's pretty much it. If you haven't already done so, please make sure you subscribe to keep up to date with any new content that I come out with. And if you found this video informative or you just enjoyed it, please make sure you hit that thumbs up. to like this video, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. I love discussing Pokemon Go PvP, so I'll make sure to comment back. That's pretty much it, guys. Until next time, this is Bestinwest. I'll catch you guys later.